legalize their status. So restrictive immigration laws, So immigration status is central to the experiences of the undocumented according to Gonzalez 2012 because it plays a very significant role in the chances that they have the access to jobs and also education. So my project focuses on undocumented youth, which are part of the 1.5 generation because they were born in Mexico, but they were brought to the United States as kids, so they grew up here. Since they were socialized as American, they challenged the dichotomy between illegal and legal, so they're kind of in the middle. And also their DACA status is also in the middle situation, what Cecilia Menjivar calls liminal legality, because they are not really undocumented, yet they're not really legal either, because that status can be taken at any point. So I focus a lot on DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which is a program that shielded young undocumented immigrants from deportation. It is an executive order that was signed back in 2012 by President Barack Obama. But currently, the uncertainty around DACA and the termination of the program creates more vulnerability for those with an already gray status, very in between. So kind of to illustrate what's going on with DACA, I have this little chart. So right when Donald Trump was elected, he said he was going to end DACA. However, that didn't happen right away. It wasn't until September 5th of 2017 that the announcement of the ending of the DACA program came. Also with the announcement, they set a deadline to submit applications, and that was October 5th of 2017. So everyone who would qualify was supposed to renew their DACA application by October 5th. So that created a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, because some people didn't qualify. Those who did were scared. They didn't know if by renewing their application they were going to be placed in deportation proceedings or anything like that. And then a few months forward, in January 9th of 2018, there was a U.S. District Court in Northern California who ordered that the Trump administration had to resume accepting DACA renewals from everyone who had DACA previously, so there was no time frame anymore. However, within a couple of days, the Trump administration appeals this decision. So again, it leaves DACA recipients in the limbo, not knowing what's going to happen. In February of 2018, the Supreme Court turned down the appeal. And if you have been following the news, it was just like this week, I think, that the Trump administration also requested another injunction in the courts, but it was denied again. So, but again, it speaks to the whole uncertainty around the program and not knowing what's going to happen. So, as of right now, there are still lawsuits pending. Therefore, the future of DACA is not known. So, the legal status that has been a source of limitation, it places DACA recipients in a state of legal vulnerability. But given the current political climate, it intensifies even more. So, I did this project as part of my master's thesis, and I did interviews. It is a qualitative study. I did 8 interviews, and they took place between October 6th, 2017, and March 7th, 2018. So 3 interviews were done before the injunction, and 5 were done after. So from our methodology, I already spoke a little bit about that. So it's 8 interviews with undocumented students, DACA recipients who were attending in Northern California University, and they were between the ages of 19 and 25. The majority of my participants were female, 5 female out of 8. And 6 of them were DACA recipients, and 2 of them did not have DACA. They did not qualify for the program because they arrived to the United States after the date they were supposed to be in order to qualify for the program. So for my preliminary findings, I found 3 major themes. The fear and the uncertainty is definitely there, but there's also mixed hopes and desires. So even though they're experiencing a very negative climate, they are still hopeful and they are still desiring for something good to happen during the Trump presidency. There's also a strong sense of resiliency among them. So for the fear and uncertainty, many express fear of what's going to happen if they lose their DACA protections. So a lot of them have jobs that were previously not accessible to them because they did not have a social security number or a work permit. So they're just kind of wondering what's going to happen if they lose that. They're going to lose their job as well. They acknowledge the anti-Mexican sentiment because it was very present during their campaign and even now at a state level. So under the Trump presidency, they are now at risk of losing their benefits that they were able to access before. So for example, I have one of my participants, Liliana, who was 24 at the time of the interview. She says, I feel really sad about it, obviously. It just kind of sucks because now there's this huge question mark, and that is probably the most annoying thing, that I can't look into the future or plan anything. So she was actually thinking about like graduate school and like moving forward with her life, but because of DACA and everything that's going on with that, she couldn't really like do anything. She felt like her life was on hold kind of. And I have another quote from another participant whose name is Cindy. She was 23 at the time of the interview. And she says, if it doesn't happen, I don't know if I will be able to have a career. So she's talking about a more permanent solution. Just because at the end of the day, you still need those 9 digits to work. I just don't know how, I just don't know how to exercise what I study without the proper documentation. And I feel that that's my biggest fear. So she was about to graduate too, and she just didn't know if she was going to be able to continue to have a job in what she studied. So for my second theme, the needs, hopes, and desires, since DACA was an executive action and not a law, it was never meant to be permanent. So there was still a need for a more permanent solution. Undocumented youth occupy a gray area between illegal and semi-legal. And I have here Carlos, who was 19 at the time of the interview, and he says, I wish there was something else that can replace it, you know? I don't understand the whole policy about that, but something that would stay for sure. So that really shows the need for something that's really going to give them a path to legal residency and even citizenship. Also, Cindy says, I think it's a great place to start, but ultimately, I think I would prefer to have a comprehensive immigration reform. But it's exciting to think that we could have a DREAM Act. So Cindy was very critical about everything that was going on, and she also acknowledged the need for a more comprehensive immigration reform that would include her parents and not only youth. So for my last theme, resiliency. So many expressed that they would find a way to continue their goals no matter what. For example, Carlos right here says, well, it's just going to take a little longer than expected, but I'm still going to continue, you know, to pursue that goal. So he's really set, he's the first in his family to go to college, and he's really set in getting that degree, even if it takes longer. Liliana right here says, when DACA was going to get removed, I was like, oh well, this is totally expected. Like, I didn't even cry as much. So I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to have to find another way. So Liliana spoke about the way she felt after Trump got elected and how she really was like lost and felt like her world was crumbling down. But by the time DACA was rescinded, she was like ready for that. So she was just like, I'm going to come up with a solution to my issue. So in conclusion, the anti-immigrant rhetoric that characterizes the Trump presidency has created increased fear among undocumented youth. In the context of the uncertainty around DACA, which offered temporary relief to undocumented youth, and terminating DACA creates more vulnerability for them since they were already in a gray area. The uncertainty around this program has forced many people to create a what-if plan, kind of like what's going to happen when I lose my protections. And even in the context of anti-immigrant hostility, many still have hopes that a solution to their legal vulnerability will be reached. Finally, I argue that just like deportations and removals, immigration laws, the uncertainty around DACA is also a form of legal violence because it's creating a lot of chaos in the lives of undocumented youth and additional strain. That's all I have. Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes for Q&A, so maybe all the presenters can come to the